3, Burnley 0. In today's video, we're going to break down what we learned from that game because I have to say, Tottenham were really good, particularly in that second half. I think the first half showed, maybe lack of creativity issues, which could be getting fixed with Eze, and not just Eze, but maybe even Savinho going in. Personal terms won't be an issue with Eze. He wants the move. Crystal Palace is looking at El Khanous. We will talk about that later on, but I'm going to give you my overview of the game. I'm going to talk about Thomas Frank, Kudus, Sarr, Richarlison. Those were the three standouts for me. Midfield looked better in the second half. General things I thought, like set pieces, clean sheet as well, first one in a while. So yeah, I'm going to break down my general thoughts on the game here. And I have to say, Mohammed Kudus is incredible. He could be the signing of the season. He is looking phenomenal right now for Tottenham Hotspur. He's just got something that, every winger should have for a top team, and that is the ability to beat your man and put in a good cross. And he did that. The drop of the shoulder. Which way is he going to go? Is he going to go onto his left? Is he going to go onto his right? And he puts a banging cross in. And Richarlison, 2 brilliant finishes, particularly the second, the scissor kick. Richarlison's one of those. He might not be the most technically gifted player in the world, but he's just a bit of a nonsense in the box. Solanke, I think, if it comes to dropping deep, being technical, linking up play, when he's fully fit, he's good. Whereas Richarlison, when it comes to just being in the box, scoring the scrappy goals, being annoying, pressing, working hard, whether it be headers, whether it be those kind of goals, and they were really good goals today, not even scrappy goals. Richarlison's clutch in that way. Brennan Johnson, I don't even think he played great. I think he looked better in the second half, but look, he scores. And Pape Matar, we've got to talk about Pape Matar because he's just looking like a different player under Thomas Frank. So yeah, let's break down this game, what we learned from Tottenham. Obviously, first off, I think was scrappy at times. I think going 1-0 up was important for Tottenham because I think had it been 0-0 in the 70th minute, it could be a different game with Burnley's low block. I think Burnley were pretty crap in the last 20 minutes because they kind of gave up and gave Tottenham that space. I think the second goal was game over and that Burnley had to open up there. But I think Spurs, they found more rhythm. I think they let Burnley get back into at the end of the first half. Burnley had moments where Burnley looked all right. But I think once Richarlison scored, Spurs had the rhythm. And I think Sarr, Richarlison and Kudus were the standouts for me. I thought Bergvall had a good game. Van der Ven, just excellent as always, But there's definitely some weaknesses in Tottenham. I think they were lacking ball progression in the middle of the park, particularly in the first half. I think Adam Wharton is exactly who you need next summer. But I thought the structure, the compactness of Tottenham, in these two games, PSG, which was a more low block, so PSG, which is more of a game where you're looking to get them on transition and you're looking to defend well, we saw good signs. And Burnley's a different kind of game to PSG. You're coming up against a low block, and there was a lot of positive signs from Spurs. So in 2 games against 2 very different opposition, one elite level team, one a team you expect to dominate possession against, you're seeing structure, you're seeing everything that you probably want to see from Thomas Frank. You're seeing general improvements in Spurs. So what are those general improvements? Just, first of all, Spurs look harder to beat. I think under Ange, even if you were 1-2-0 up, you could easily concede. And I know that you conceded the 2 goals versus PSG late in the Super Cup, but that is PSG. They're just an unbelievable team. It's not like, well, under Ange at times, you'd give the ball away and Mickey van der Ven and Romero, or whoever was at centre-back, because they weren't always fit, had zero protection. And, you just knew that the other team was going to have a shot. Whereas it wasn't a case of Tottenham give the ball away and you can just run through them. There was a lot more compactness there. And I think the fact that Gray, Bergvall and Sarr offer so much energy, like off the ball, the amount of ground they can cover, the amount they can press, the amount of energy they bring is obviously key. And a big reason behind that, I think it worked well. I think that being in his best position in midfield, in a much more compact, structurally sound side, definitely suited Archie Gray, who I think in the first half, maybe on the ball decision-making, struggled to make his mark on the game. But I really thought in the second half that we saw what Archie Gray can be. He's very raw. And, I've seen people give him stick, but people forget he's 19. He's very raw. It's the Premier League. But you're seeing elements of what he can do today. And I felt that Spurs looked harder to beat. But I think the biggest thing that Thomas Frank has done is he's using players in their best position. He's maximising players. Kudus was put on left wing and number 10 and second striker a lot for West Ham last season. Everyone knows Kudus' best role was on the right wing. It's on the right wing because he is literally statistically was the best dribbler in the Premier League last season. Nobody completed more than 200 take-ons other than Kudus. So putting him on the right, you're putting Kudus in his best position. Where did both his assists come from? The right. crossing it in. Sarr plays his best football higher up. Sarr's not a 10 for me. He's a very advanced 8, and where he can make those runs and he can press and make those late runs and carry the ball. Sarr's in his best role. Sarr and Kudus, 2 players right now who in the last 2 games have been excellent because they're being used in their best role. I think the midfield physically off the ball was good. Pressed Burnley into mistakes. Sarr really good for assists for Brennan Johnson, but also did well to win the ball back, which resulted in the first goal, which was really key. I think Tottenham getting that first goal, because I do think there's creativity issues that Tottenham have, and I think had they not got that first goal and Burnley could park the bus, it would have been harder. But Eze is set to go to Tottenham now. He's a 10. He's a left winger. He can bring the creativity. Savinho, doesn't score many goals, but he's a creative player. Eze's a proven goal scorer with creativity. Savinho is a proven very creative player, and I think scored over 20 assists in the last year across all of his games. Some not for Manchester City, but he again also plays his best football on the left. Man City mostly played him on the right because of Doku. At Girona, Savinho was on the left. That's where he played his best football. At Kudus' best football was played on the right. Eze's best football was played in the 10. Solanke and Richarlison up top can alternate between them. You got Eze on the left, Kudus on the right. Sorry, Eze in the 10, Savinho on the left, Kudus on the right, and Eze in the 10. Tottenham could look crazy different just with those 2 signings. I definitely think they're not perfect. They need a progressive 6. They're not going to do that. Pellegrin's coming as a stopgap, but he's more for defensive security rather than being a progressive 6. But if you have that quality and creativity in attack, and you set up so you're difficult to beat, which Tottenham are now becoming difficult to beat because they're very physically good off the ball. They can cover a lot of ground. They can press really hard. You can get away with not having the perfect 6 right away. You're not, Thomas Frank isn't going to have every single player he wants in his first summer. But if Van der Ven and Romero stay fit, Doggy, Romero, Spence, good players, your midfield stays fit, and you bring Eze in and you have that front 4 that I just mentioned, then that's a very good team that Tottenham could have a lot of success with. And then they can next summer look at areas that might need more depth or reinforcements in that progressive 6. But the signing Tottenham made, which is looking phenomenal right now, is Mohammed Kudus. 2 assists, 5 chances created, 5 accurate crosses. How good was Mohammed Kudus today? He was phenomenal. He beat his fullback. He had the power, he had the pace to get in behind, beat his fullback. And Brennan Johnson scored a goal today, but you don't see Brennan Johnson get past his man very often and dribble the ball like that. What Kudus has, and I've said this so many times now, is you just can't push him off the ball. Like, Kudus has the ball, you can't push him off the ball. He retains possession so well, which helps Spurs sustain possession higher up the pitch because he will just keep the ball. When he has the ball, you don't know if he's going to go on the outside, the inside, left, right. He can beat his man, he can beat many men, and then he can put in a good cross. It's not he can do this and that, but not this and that. Some players are really good at dribbling but can't cross. Some players score loads, gets goals and assists but can't do anything else. Brennan Johnson, but he's got that all. And the goals and assists will come. He got 2 assists today. 5 chances created, 5 accurate crosses. If Solanke gets in the box more when he plays, Richarlison got in the box and was perfect, beating his fullback, power, pace. You can't push him off the ball. He's so fast. He's so unpredictable. Putting good balls, retain possession well. He could become signing of the summer because Jamie Gittins is £55 million and he got 1 goal in the last 6 months in the Bundesliga. I think he'll be a good signing for Chelsea. But you got 55 million, same price Kudus, who was Prem proven, who yes didn't have the best season at West Ham, but they're your rivals. If I'm looking at the amount of players and wingers that have gone, 55 million for Kudus is looking like a good bit of business. Amari Hutchinson's going for 40 million. Like, don't get me wrong, good player, but I think the market for wingers is crazy, and I think that price of Kudus could look like a bargain. A player who is starting to look like a bargain for Tottenham is Sarr. Now, I've done videos on the channel before talking about Sarr because Sarr has showed in Ange's first season and elements of last season what a good player there is. With Sarr, he's definitely been inconsistent, but he'd been thrown into this team with no balance, where he'd been ran into the ground, and that, like, the midfielders he played with always get injured, and it was always rotating, and then he was being asked to play in a deeper role. We know there's a talented player in Sarr. We've seen him have some really good games for Tottenham. I remember versus Aston Villa, I think when you won 4-0? Was that the game where he just made those incredible runs and was combining? That might have been Ange's first season, or I don't know what the score was, but you scored a lot of goals versus Aston Villa in Ange's first season. I remember Sarr really impressed them, but he got 1 assist today, but he played a big part in the first half, winning back the ball. We saw what he did versus Vitinha on Wednesday, pressing, working hard, winning back the ball. But look, it's not only is he winning duels, not only is he winning back the ball, but he's getting the ball, he's carrying up the pitch and making final third passes. He's just one of those players that can cover so much ground, that is such an elite athlete, that is going to press you, that is going to win back the ball. He's the kind of player that every team will want because he will run further than anyone else on the pitch. I don't know what his running stats are, but I know SofaScore are adding running stats. So I'm actually going to look at that now. I'm going to see if I can find Sarr's running stats on SofaScore. So yeah, he covered 10.9 kilometers. So he basically covered 11 kilometers. So he must have covered probably one of the furthest distances on the pitch. But you also had Archie Gray, who covered 9 kilometers. Obviously, he got subbed off earlier. Bergvall covered 10.7 kilometers, who obviously got subbed off a little bit later than Archie Gray after 80 minutes. But that Spurs midfield, had they all played 90 minutes full on, they probably all would have covered 11 kilometers each, which is very, very good. And I just think the work rate from him was really good. Sarr winning the ball, setting up Johnson, the presses, causing havoc. And at times he looked raw last season, but I think Thomas Frank is profiling him absolutely correctly. So let's go into Richarlison here. So Richarlison, for me, isn't maybe the best technical player in the world, but he's one of those guys where if you look at Solanke dropping deep technical, he's better at that. If you look at someone that's just a box presence, that's just a nuisance, that's a bit of a shithouse, that is Richarlison. And today he was phenomenal, Richarlison. 2 goals, 5 shots, dribbles, distance covered, pressing, working hard. The finish for the second goal was unbelievable. But also, from set pieces, I think Tottenham look a lot better. And you know that Richarlison's going to be a threat, whether it be defensively, whether it be going forward. He's the kind of guy that, if he's fit, I think Thomas Frank will really like him because he brings something so different to Solanke. But Thomas Frank just wants players that have got like the dog in them, if that's the word, that they're a bit of a nuisance. You like them if they're your player, but you're not going to like playing against them because they are someone that's going to work hard, that is going to score those sort of jammy goals, that is going to be a bit of a wind-up kind of thing. So yeah, I think Richarlison was good. I think the midfield improved. I think the first half, the midfield, they were struggling, I think, to break the lines and really get out the half. But I thought the second half, the midfield came out with a different level of intensity and energy. And I thought Bergvall was really good in that second half. I think he completed 19 out of 22 passes. He made 2 dribbles, 3 final third passes, was winning the duels. But I think what impressed me the most about Tottenham's midfield is the amount of ground they covered. And I think the energy, the work rate was really causing Burnley issues because Burnley, going into the Premier League and they're like, yeah, this is a different level of physicality. But yeah, look, from Tottenham, we saw improvements at times. We saw lots of little improvements throughout this game. And I thought Vicky van der Ven again was excellent. I think he was really good versus PSG. And I think because Tottenham are scoring goals and all of this, it might not get the attention. But I thought that because Tottenham are more defensively secure, it might not get the attention. But I thought Vicky van der Ven, his recovery speed was important there, positioning the blocks. First Premier League clean sheet since February, and that was against Man United. And getting a clean sheet against Man United last season was not an achievement. I'm a Man United fan. We were atrocious, okay? Atrocious. Spence looked really good, and I noticed in the second half he came into midfield a little bit and added some overloads. I think corners and throw-ins were already more organised. The Brentford DNA is showing there. Look, you still lacked ball progression from deep. You still lacked a true 6. We could see that. But yeah, I think my final thoughts was Richarlison was sharp, Kudus was electric, Sarr was outstanding. Your defence looked very, very more compact, more organised. Creativity was still lacking at times, particularly in the first half. But Eze is set to come in. You just got a few final details to sort out. Savinho could be coming in, who's a very good creative player. You're definitely going to need an Adam Wharton type player in 2026. I would suggest Belieber, but I'm really hoping he comes to Manchester United, so I'm not going to suggest him. And yeah, chaos, creativity. I think you looked fitter. I think you looked harder to beat, but I think you looked more balanced. And I think Thomas Frank will be a success. Thank you for watching. Bye.